Hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya, and I'm the #1 hero. And this is the story of how I found out I'm an Uchiha.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Neon Pow here, and this week we're doing part 6 to What If Deku Was an Uchiha. That means we have not seen the previous parts or need a refresher. Please click the link in the description or the card above for the playlist. I know it's been a while since I've covered this, but I really want to try to finish this out before we continue any new projects. I know my old subscribers love this series, and I hope you new guys that have joined me will also enjoy it. So what we're gonna do is make this an easy like goal of just 100 likes, nothing too big. You beasts should easily be able to hit that. Also, 85% of the people watching my video are not subscribed, so if you're one of them, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay up to date with all the juicy weekly what ifs. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video. In the last episode, we left Deku finishing up provisional licensing exams and finally receiving his license. He was able to outshine everyone as the VIP through his superb skills and well thought out tactics. However, not everyone was able to gain the same status as Deku, one of those in particular being Bakugo. Bakugo and Deku's rivalry has always been very unstable and fierce. However, with the rapid increase in Deku's power, Bakugo is not only furious about the fact that he's getting outclassed, but also that Deku is hiding many secrets from him. Bakugo refuses to be left in the dark for any longer. One night, when all the other students are distracted, Bakugo demands Deku to meet him outside to talk about his quirk. Deku, in this story, is more confident in his skills, but still feels uneasy about the tone Bakugo just used towards him. Deku is especially concerned that his secret could possibly be out somehow. He isn't sure if Bakugo noticed his Sharingan or realized he has one for all, but all Deku can do is meet with his rival and talk it out. As the two are walking, Deku asks what Bakugo wants to talk about. Bakugo is quiet for a bit, then asks Deku who he is. Deku is confused about this question and replies that he's the same old Deku that he's always been. Bakugo then stops and turns back fiercely and grabs Deku's shirt and says, "That's some bull." Bakugo then takes a breath and lets go of Deku, which actually surprises Deku that Bakugo controlled his rage. Bakugo then adds that he knows that Deku has been working to get strong since he was just a quirkless kid, but he says that the normal training can only get you so strong. He also says that Deku has recently been very careful to always cover his eyes more so than when they were as kids. He then tells Deku that he knows he is hiding something and will no longer be left in the dark. Deku is aware that his arrogant and stubborn friend will not let him drop this discussion. He could just use his genjutsu on him to make him forget about the situation, but that would only lead to more turmoil down the road if done so. Deku then thinks that it's time that his friend knows the truth. He believes All Might would understand. He takes a deep breath, looks at Bakugo, and activates his Sharingan. This ominous presence coming from Deku makes Bakugo flinch slightly. Deku then says that you asked me to reveal my power, so let's spar and I'll show you what I've been keeping a secret. Bakugo begins to smirk and says, "Now you're speaking my language. Let's go." The two rivals clash. Deku starts off by slowly ramping up One for All, so he can show Bakugo the extent of his power. At first, Bakugo looks to have the upper hand, landing a few hits on Deku. However, as Deku ramps up 5%, then 8% of One for All, the two seems more evenly matched. Now, with the increase of speed, Deku can utilize his Sharingan to dodge every single one of Bakugo's attacks. This is where Bakugo begins to realize Deku's true power. However, he will be damned to give up just because he's being pushed back to his limit. Deku can see Bakugo's determination. The two friends begin smiling with each blow. Because of the exertion of power, Bakugo then yells at Deku to stop going easy on him and to finally give his all against him. Deku can see his friend's determination and gives him what he wants. Deku charges up to 15% because if he went any higher, he felt that he would kill Bakugo. With this power up in his Sharingan, Bakugo is completely demolished and is left smashed into the ground. Deku sees this and powers down and goes to help Bakugo as he felt he might have gone overboard. Bakugo uses Deku's naivety to get one final sucker punch and yells that Deku is always too soft. However, to his surprise, Deku has his Sharingan still activated and he's able to dodge and counter Bakugo's cheap trick. Even after being completely destroyed, Bakugo understands everything completely now and can finally be at ease. As he gets up, he grudgingly says something underneath his breath. Deku can't quite hear him, so he repeats. Bakugo finally admits that he acknowledges Deku as a worthy hero and his rival. Deku, being shocked to hear Bakugo actually say something like this, begins laughing. This causes Bakugo to look a bit embarrassed. After this interaction, the two are then interrupted by a familiar voice. All Might has made his presence known! The two young heroes become flustered and try to cover that they were just horseplaying and it got a bit out of hand. However, All Might isn't mad. He just looks at the boys and embraces them. He is so happy to have seen the way the situation was handled, even though it was technically against the rules to be out this late making noise. He then turns to Bakugo, looks at him closely, and tells him about One For All. After hearing the details, Bakugo isn't too surprised, as the fight with Deku was able to tell him pretty much everything. He, of course, promises to not reveal the secret. Everyone now leaves back to the dormitories feeling fulfilled. However, Aizawa is waiting for the two students. They will of course be receiving disciplinary measures for breaking the rules. After this, we move over to when we are introduced to the big three of UA. With Deku's reputation, he is the first to meet one of the students, Mirio. As with any normal person, Deku is surprised to see a head coming out of a wall. The two have a small interaction before Mirio warps away. This small interaction gets Deku immediately thinking about who and what the power he just witnessed was. He becomes fixated with this throughout the night. The next day approaches quickly, and all the students are officially introduced to the big three of UA. They all head over to the gymnasium to spar against Mirio. Instead of Kirishima getting interrupted by Deku like in canon, Deku doesn't mind providing support for now. Uraraka and Mirio are both surprised to not hear Deku volunteering, but unknown to them, Deku's main objective for doing so is that he hopes to analyze Mirio's quirk using his Sharingan. This will allow him to visualize any internal activations during fighting. However, Deku is still concealing the fact that he has the Sharingan, as he hopes to stay behind everyone to not make a scene. The fight begins, and Kirishima goes for the first strike. As Mirio's clothes begins to fall off, which shocks everyone, Deku is able to see something even more shocking. All traces of Mirio's existence disappears, even though he can clearly see him standing before him. Then, Mirio warps into the ground. No one knows where he is. However, all of a sudden, Deku gets a reading of where Mirio is below the ground. Since Deku is in the back, Mirio is trying to go after him first. Deku sees Mirio speeding towards him from below him and readies to counter. However, he realizes he needs to turn off his Sharingan. This lag caused Deku to fall behind. Mirio is already on top of him before he can deactivate his visual prowess. Fortunately, Deku still knew where Mirio would pop up, so he was able to block his attack, but his secret about his eyes might have been revealed. Mirio actually stops for a second, completely shocked that Deku could predict and block his attack. This also shocks everyone else in the room as well. It's rare to have someone predict his line of attack, especially for someone who has never seen his quirk before. He also questions the color of Deku's eyes as he thought they were red a second ago. He puts this in the back of his mind and the fight continues. Unfortunately, now that all eyes are on Deku, he is unable to activate his Sharingan once again. Though, now that Deku has a pretty good idea on how Mirio's quirk works, he is actually able to predict the next spot that he will pop out of and goes for an attack, which lands, shocking everyone. Mirio is super excited now. He now steps up his game by moving more unpredictably. Normally, Deku could follow Mirio's movements with his Sharingan, but without it, he is unable to predict Mirio's line of movement. Everyone, including himself, is taken out. Mirio is so stoked to have witnessed the first year everyone has been talking about is just as amazing as the rumors have said. He then answers the questions about his quirk, which confirms Deku's analysis. After the sparring is over, the big three are chatting, and as they walk, Nejire brings up how the one first year was able to get the upper hand for a bit during Mirio's fight. Mirio completely agrees and is now more excited than ever as he hopes his mentor, Sir Night-Eye, will have a liking for the boy. After this interaction, some time passes. The students are now currently looking for the hero agencies with a good track record. As in canon, Deku wants to train under Sir Night-Eye. All Might can provide introductions, so Mirio is called in to do so. When All Might asks if Deku can fit the part, Mirio easily vouches for him, especially after the performance he witnessed during their spar. He does still ask Deku what type of hero he wants to be, and Deku provides powerfully. Later, the two head over to Night Eye's agency. Deku still fails to make the hero laugh, as he doesn't have a single ounce of humor inside of him. The only way Deku can hope to join the agency is through Night Eye's test, while he has the quirk activated. Night Eye, like in canon, is not in favor of Deku receiving One For All, and begins bantering him as the test is going on. Even with Deku moving at 20% of One For All, Night Eye is predicting every single move. With only 1 minute remaining, the hero becomes a bit frustrated and tells Deku that if he doesn't want to join his agency, he needs to stop wasting his time. This is no time to hold back. Deku, already exerting the maximum percentage for One For All, realizes that Night Eye must be talking about his Sharingan. Deku wants to get stronger no matter what, so he pushes back his pride of revealing his cursed Sharingan and activates it. Now, it is Night Eye's future vision quirk versus Deku's Sharingan. Which visual prowess will reveal to be the mightiest? Find out on the next episode of What If Deku Was an Uchiha. Now guys, that's where we're ending this part, but make sure to hit that like goal of 100 likes, and I'll be catching you guys next week for the continuation and final part to this season. So, with much love, Neon out.